May 5, 2018. 11:20 a.m. A quiet country path near St. Helens. A pregnant woman walks her dogs with her partner. The runner approaches from behind. Military precision. Professional execution. He fires 4 shots. Wendy Owen is 7 months pregnant. This is their routine, walking the dogs on this quiet country track near their home. Just another ordinary Saturday morning. Now she's screaming. Now she's watching John Canella, Liverpool enforcer, survivor of decades in the underworld, die in front of her on a path where families walk their children. The runner doesn't look back. Doesn't check if John Canella, protector of Steven Gerrard, survivor of decades in the underworld, is actually dead. He just keeps running. Because Mark Fellows, Britain's most technologically advanced assassin, knows his work is done. 4 bullets. Broad daylight. No witnesses except a traumatized pregnant woman who'll never forget his face. The perfect crime. Except for one thing. His fitness tracker is still recording. Every step he takes running away from the murder scene. Every spike in his heart rate during the execution. Every GPS coordinate of his escape route. The device meant to track his morning jog has just created a digital confession to murder. And John Canella's 7 months pregnant girlfriend, still screaming on that country path, still trying to stop the bleeding, has no idea that the man who just destroyed her life is about to be destroyed by his own obsession with fitness data. But he made one fatal mistake. He forgot to turn off his fitness tracker. Welcome to Crime Scene Chronicles. We uncover Britain's most shocking true crime cases using the latest investigative techniques. To our loyal subscribers, thank you for being part of this incredible fast-growing community. Your support means everything. And if you're watching for the first time, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with fellow true crime enthusiasts. It genuinely helps us reach more people and continue bringing you these in-depth investigations that mainstream media won't touch. Today we're diving into the most technologically advanced gangland execution in British history, where a hitman's obsession with fitness became his downfall. This is the story of Mark the Iceman Fellows, the contract killer who thought he was untouchable. But his Garmin watch was recording everything. But before we reveal how this fitness fanatic became Britain's deadliest assassin, we need to go back 3 years. To a man they called Mr. Big. And to the night that started the most brutal gang war in British history. 3 years earlier, Salford was a powder keg waiting to explode. And at the center of it all was Paul Anthony Massey, a man they called Mr. Big. But Massey wasn't your typical gangster. He was viewed as a Robin Hood character who kept heroin out of Salford. He ran security at Manchester's legendary Hacienda nightclub during the city's acid house explosion. He even ran for mayor of Salford. The people loved him. The underworld feared him. By 2015, Massey controlled everything that mattered in Salford: the doors, the drugs, the violence. His security firm, Phoenix Security, was allegedly a front for the most sophisticated protection racket in the Northwest. But success breeds enemies. And Massey had made one enemy too many. This wasn't the lovable rogues from the TV show. The A-Team were brutal gang members who used machetes, grenades, and semi-automatic weapons to wipe out rivals. They wanted Massey's territory. They wanted his power. And they had the perfect weapon, a fitness-obsessed contract killer with ice-cold veins. But who was this technological assassin? And how did a health-conscious jogger become Britain's most dangerous hitman? The answer will shock you. But first, let me tell you about the night everything changed. July 26, 2015. 7:28 p.m. Manchester Road, Clifton. Paul Massey pulls into his driveway after a Sunday afternoon with family. He's unarmed, relaxed, thinking about dinner. He never sees the gunman emerge from the shadows. The killer was reported to have been wearing military-style fatigues and carried a weapon similar to a submachine gun. Professional. Methodical. Emotionless. The execution was over in seconds. Massey, the man who had controlled Salford for decades, lay dying in his own driveway. The hit was so brazen, so public, that neighbors initially thought it was a film being shot. But this was no movie. This was the opening shot in the most brutal gang war in British history. The response was immediate and terrifying. Manchester police believe that the shooting of a 29-year-old woman and her 7-year-old son was linked to retribution for the Massey killing. From January-December 2015, there were 19 shootings in Salford. A 7-year-old child shot because of gang retaliation. The streets of Salford had become a war zone. And somewhere in the shadows, a professional killer was planning his next move. But who was this ghost? This phantom who could execute Manchester's most powerful gangster and vanish without a trace? If you're gripped by this story of technology meets gangland execution, smash that like button, because we're about to reveal the identity of Britain's most dangerous hitman. And you won't believe his day job. His name was Mark Fellows. But on the streets, they called him the Iceman. Fellows lived in Warrington but was originally from Salford. He was 35 years old, a father of 2, and obsessed with fitness. To his neighbors, he was just another health-conscious runner pounding the pavements. They had no idea they were living next door to one of Britain's most deadly contract killers. Fellows wasn't your typical gangland thug. He was methodical, intelligent, and technologically savvy. Conspirators used PGP-equipped BlackBerry phones to coordinate the murder. Military-grade encryption. Professional communication protocols. But he had one weakness, his addiction to tracking his fitness data. Fellows wore a Garmin Forerunner watch everywhere. It recorded his runs, his heart rate, his precise GPS location. For a fitness enthusiast, it was the perfect training tool. For a contract killer, it would become the perfect piece of evidence. After executing Paul Massey, Fellows thought he was untouchable. The hit had been perfect, no witnesses, no DNA, no trace. He'd vanished into the night like a ghost. But his watch had been recording everything. What Fellows didn't know was that evidence from a Garmin fitness watch with a GPS function found in Fellows' house was used to show that he had traveled from his home to a field opposite Massey's home. The police had his exact movements, his precise timing, his route to and from the murder scene. The Iceman had been betrayed by his own technology. But he wasn't finished killing. And his next target? The most dangerous man in Paul Massey's network. A Liverpool enforcer who had once protected England captain Steven Gerrard from Underworld threats. This man was about to become target number 2. And this time, the execution would be even more brutal. 3 years passed. Paul Massey was dead, but his network lived on. And the most dangerous member of that network was a Liverpool enforcer named John Canella. Canella wasn't just any gangster. During a trial, the jury was read a letter from the father of Steven Gerrard saying that Canella had stopped his son from being threatened by a criminal, George Bromley Jr., known as the Psycho, in 2001. Think about that. This man had protected England captain Steven Gerrard from Underworld threats. Canella was a pallbearer at Paul Massey's funeral. He was loyal, dangerous, and knew exactly who had killed his friend. He was a criminal associate of gangster Paul Massey and a pallbearer at his funeral. That made him a target. By 2018, John Canella was living quietly with his pregnant partner, Wendy Owen. They thought they were safe. They thought the war was over. They were wrong. The A-team had given Mark Fellows another contract. And this time, the hit would be even more brutal, even more public. Because John Canella wasn't going to die alone in a driveway. He was going to die in front of the woman carrying his child. But Fellows had no idea that his fitness tracker was about to betray him again. This time, it would end his career forever. May 5, 2018. 11:20 a.m. A quiet country path near Rainhill, St. Helens. John Canella and his pregnant girlfriend Wendy Owen are taking their dogs for a morning walk. It's a beautiful day. The path is peaceful, surrounded by countryside where families bring their children. They don't notice the runner approaching from behind. Mark Fellows had been tracking Canella for weeks. Learning his routines, his habits, his vulnerable moments. The fitness tracker that had helped convict him for the Massey murder was still on his wrist, still recording everything. But the Iceman didn't care. He thought he was smarter than the police. Canella was shot dead near St. Helens Linkway in Rainhill as he walked with his pregnant partner Wendy Owen. The execution was swift, professional, and utterly ruthless. 4 gunshots in broad daylight. Wendy Owen, 7 months pregnant, watched the man who had once protected Steven Gerrard die on a country path. The Iceman vanished again. But this time, he'd made an even bigger mistake. The murder scene was covered by CCTV cameras. Traffic cameras had captured his movements. And most damaging of all, his beloved fitness tracker had recorded his exact route to and from the killing. Technology had betrayed him twice. But this time, it would end his career forever. This story gets even more shocking. If you want to see how police used cutting-edge digital forensics to catch a killer, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because what happens next will change criminal justice forever. The investigation into John Kinsella's murder was unlike anything British police had ever undertaken. They weren't just hunting a killer, they were tracking a digital ghost. Detectives used GPS data from Mark Iceman Fellows' Garmin Forerunner watch to connect him to the murder of a British gang member. Think about the precision of this evidence. The watch had recorded Fellows' exact location at the time of both murders. It showed him conducting reconnaissance on Paul Mass's house. It tracked his movements to and from John Kinsella's execution. Among the crucial pieces of evidence in his trial was a Garmin Forerunner, a GPS-linked fitness watch that tied Fellows to pre-assassination reconnaissance on one of his targets. Pre-assassination reconnaissance. The police could literally see him stalking his victims. But the digital evidence went deeper. Fellows had been using encrypted communication systems to coordinate with his handlers. The A-team had been careful, professional, almost military in their planning. Almost. Because while they'd encrypted their communications, they hadn't thought about fitness trackers. They hadn't considered that their killer's obsession with health data would become the smoking gun that destroyed them all. On June 1, 2018, Mark Fellows was charged with both murders. The man who thought technology would make him the perfect killer had been undone by the very gadgets he relied on. But would a jury believe that a fitness tracker could solve a double murder? The trial was about to make legal history. Liverpool Crown Court, January 2019. The trial of Mark the Iceman Fellows wasn't just about 2 murders, it was about the future of criminal justice in the digital age. Fellows was convicted of both murders following an 8-week trial at Liverpool Crown Court. The prosecution's case was devastating. They had GPS data showing Fellows at both murder scenes. They had CCTV footage of his movements. They had encrypted communications linking him to the conspiracy. But most damaging of all, they had his fitness tracker data showing him conducting surveillance on his victims. The defense tried to argue that the GPS data was unreliable, that fitness trackers could be wrong. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took just 8 hours to convict. He was sentenced to a whole life term. No parole. No hope of release. At the time of his conviction, he was one of only 70 prisoners sentenced to a whole life term. Mark Fellows, the fitness-obsessed contract killer who thought technology would make him untouchable, would spend the rest of his life in a prison cell. But the story doesn't end there. Because this case changed everything. The Mark Fellows case changed everything. The health-conscious assassin was picked up for another death, then investigators found his Garmin. This was the first major British murder case solved primarily through fitness tracker evidence. Police forces across the UK began training officers in digital forensics. Fitness trackers, smartphones, smartwatches, everything that recorded location data became potential evidence. The age of the perfect crime was over. Today, investigators routinely use digital evidence to solve cases that would have been impossible to crack just a decade ago. The technology that criminals thought would help them had become their greatest enemy. Mark Fellows pioneered this new era of digital justice. And he's paying the price with his freedom. But what happened to the people left behind? The Salford gang war officially ended with his conviction. The A-team was broken. Paul Mass's territory was carved up among smaller gangs. John Kinsella's pregnant partner gave birth to a daughter who will grow up never knowing her father. Wendy Owen, who witnessed the execution on that country path, carries trauma that will last forever. 2 men are dead. A killer will never see freedom again. And it all came down to a fitness tracker that recorded everything. The case of Mark the Iceman Fellows proves one terrifying truth. In the digital age, you can run, but you can never hide. His obsession with fitness data became his downfall. His Garmin watch, designed to help him stay healthy, instead mapped out his career as a contract killer. Technology doesn't just solve crimes anymore, it prevents them from being perfect. Every step you take is recorded. Every location you visit is logged. Every heartbeat during your darkest moments is monitored. Mark Fellows thought he was Britain's most advanced assassin. Instead, he became the first killer destroyed by his own digital footprint. That's all for today's deep dive into the Salford gang war on Crime Scene Chronicles. If this story of digital justice and gangland execution kept you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this video with anyone who thinks they can outsmart modern forensics. Because in today's world, your devices are always watching. Your data is always recording. And justice is always just one GPS coordinate away. What other cases of digital forensics solving impossible crimes would you like us to investigate? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, remember, in the age of smart technology, there's no such thing as the perfect crime.